Okay, so if marriage doesn't fix the problem of sexual brokenness or addiction, what can this belief of this myth, when someone carries it into their marriage, someone specifically struggling, when it comes to sexual purity, what can this do to them, to their marriage, if they bring it into it?
Oftentimes, Trevor, just increases the level of shame. Like, oh my goodness, here I am, and I'm still carrying this burden with me, and there must be something wrong with me. It also impacts the relational dynamic within that marriage, as an individual carries that burden into marriage. And it also places additional undue pressure on the person not battling with the brokenness or compulsive behavior, where unrealistic expectations may have been placed upon them as well.
Yeah, I know that was totally my experience of, as I just described, when we're having regular sexual connection and then I'm still falling into that binge purge pattern with pornography, the shame of like, I'm the worst person in the world because I've got a great, beautiful wife that I'm really enjoying having sex with. What is wrong with me that I would pursue these things? 'Cause I was totally blind to the pattern and why I was acting out and all those reasons. So that shame sets in. And I think, and I'm grateful. I feel like God protected me from this, but I do hear it a lot from men in recovery that they can, not only does the spouse maybe feel that pressure internally, but a lot of men may end up putting that pressure on their spouse because they think, well, if I'm still battling, it must just be, it's not frequent enough. And the danger of that cycle, man, the pain of, well, if we're only having sex twice a week and I'm still feeling lustful thoughts, we must need it every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I've even heard stories where men expecting of a spouse like multiple times a day because they need it to avoid lust. And it's like, wow, that's just so buying into this fallacy that if I just get enough of it from my spouse, I won't need anything else. And I mean, I wish that were true because a lot of people would have a lot easier time being healthy, but it's not related. And so you can be attempting as often as you want for that sexual connection in your marriage and still not
Yeah.
have it work out. And that's why we say this is such a myth, because we hear those stories that for the guy or gal who's, battling this myth and they're maybe only having sexual connection with their spouse weekly or a couple times a month or even more infrequent, it might be easier for them to think like, well, no, it's not a myth. It's just that I'm not getting it enough. And I want you to hear from me, like, we've talked to the people that they're having as much sex as they could possibly want and they're still stuck in the
Yeah.
pattern of sexual brokenness and acting out. And so don't think that it's just your state of affairs, that if you only had it more, this wouldn't be a myth.
Yeah.
The frequency does not make a difference.
Yeah. I think too, there's a sense of disillusionment that can happen when you get into marriage. You assume it's going to solve the problem. And then, yeah, as you guys have talked about, you can put pressure on your spouse, you can shame yourself, but also like something's wrong with our marriage. Like you hear other couples talk about their sex life and then you start to compare, like, why are we not experiencing that level? Why do I still feel like I need to go outside my marriage? And so I think that it really can be a cancer inside of a marriage that deteriorates it from the inside because I, there's something, and there is something wrong, but we're placing the blame of that wrong on maybe our marriage as a whole. And I think that, man, that can devalue your view of marriage. Divorce maybe becomes, a quick option in your head. Maybe you're telling your friends like, well, marriage isn't really what it's chopped up to be. Like our parents were lying to us or our pastor's lying to us or whatever. And so I think that can just create even more issues down the road.